Welcome to the Mr. Futurist podcast. Thanks for tuning in, and now your host, Dave Holt.
Hi, this is Dave Holt, and welcome to Mr. Futurist. This week, my discussion is going to be called "The U.S. Economy is Built on a Foundation of Sand." While many economists are saying the U.S. economy looks great and has a forward momentum, I'm going to take a different tone. Let's discuss all the mass layoffs lately in what is supposed to be a great U.S. economy of low unemployment with a surging stock market. All of the information I'm going to give is included as links to the source material that I'm referencing. You probably heard that Tesla recently cut 9% of its global workforce. McDonald's is having layoffs as it restructures and streamlines management. IBM layoffs at Watson Health. 3,000 layoffs at Novo Nordisk, and a reduction of long-term growth projections. HP Incorporated now expects 45,000 to 5,000 employees to leave the company by the end of the fiscal year 2019 as part of an ongoing restructuring plan. Many of these positions are affecting white-collar management, and we are seeing technology companies and technology professionals being affected as well. Let's look at some comments from the finance industry that I believe give a very clear picture of what is happening. From the Business Insider, in an article called "Robots Could Replace as Many as 10,000 Jobs at Citi's Investment Bank." Jamie Pharisee, the president of Citi and the chief executive of the bank's institutional clients group, told the Financial Times in an interview, "We've got 20,000 operational roles. Over the next 5 years, could you make it 10,000? Pharisee also said the most likely areas for automation were in technology and operations, which accounts for almost 40% of the headcount at Citi's investment banking arm. Pharisee described these roles as the most fertile for machine processing. In the same article, it states, other major banking executives made similar comments to the FT, with Goldman Sachs International CEO Richard Ganode, the bank's senior figure outside the U.S., saying he saw no reason automation couldn't keep growing. Also from the Business Insider, Deutsche Bank CEO states, a big number of our staff will be replaced by technology. I reported back in November of last year that ex-Google president Kai-Fu Lee said on a CNBC show that AI will obliterate half of all jobs. Let me repeat that. Kai-Fu Lee said on a CNBC show that AI will obliterate half of all jobs. Mr. Lee also said that white-collar jobs are easier to take because they are a pure, quantitative, analytical process. Mr. Lee said in an interview with MIT Technology Review in an article called "Tech Companies Should Stop Pretending AI Won't Destroy Jobs," he states, "It will soon be obvious that half of our tasks can be done better at almost no cost by AI. This will be the fastest transition humankind has experienced, and we're not ready for it." I would check out this whole article because Mr. Lee talks a lot about the AI race between China and the U.S., and it's definitely worth a read. I completely agree with Mr. Lee, and I've said so for years, that AI and smart technology will take over a lot more jobs than is being reported. I believe it is starting to happen now, and will continue to happen and escalate with the next big U.S. recession. On a side note, I think Mr. Kai-Fu Lee is someone to watch and listen to. He seems to be very in tune with the U.S. and China technology advances and business models. According to the CNBC U.S. economy page, planned job cuts slow in May as retail continues to lead this year, from the Challenger report. According to this article, the 207,977 planned job cuts announced in 2018 is more than 6.2% higher than the same period of 2017. It's also not surprising that retail leads all sectors in job cuts this year with 69,316, far surpassing the next two closest sectors, health and consumer. What we are seeing here is retail jobs shrinking as automation prepares to dominate the industry. If you are a manager or executive, I would start researching how automation and technology can and probably will at some point, probably sooner than later, affect your career. This is not a time to be complacent. Retraining with the right skills is the best option for the future. I believe there will be another deep U.S. recession, and it will have massive global impact. You don't have to be a futurist or even an economist to know this, because these things come in cycles and that's always the way it's happened. For example, the last recession, called the Great Recession, was in 2008. Let's look at an interesting pattern since 1980. Recessions have been coming since 1980 every 10 years or so. At 2018, we are at the next 10-year mark. So the odds are, in keeping with the same pattern since 1980, 2019 or 2020 is going to be the next recession, and it looks like a big one, as I will explain. The future is all about companies getting leaner and automating. The next major recession will create mass unemployment, but unlike other recessions, a lot of jobs will not be coming back because of automation and technology. In fact, this will be the best time for companies to look at automating as much as they can. At the same time, everyone needs to see how they will fit into this future career landscape. Companies today need to have a shifting long-term automation and technology plan in place right now. In fact, everyone needs to have a shifting career long-term path in place. I'm not into politics, and I'm unbiased about politics. I just hope that we can all work together to keep what looks like what's going to happen from happening and destroying our country. Having said that, President Donald Trump recently said, in many ways, this is the greatest economy in the history of America and the best time ever to look for a job. I've seen many interviews with economists on the mainstream financial news shows that agree that the economy is doing great and short and long-term projections look really good. This is the same president who also said, we're going to stimulate the economy by bringing back American manufacturing and American manufacturing jobs. I had a post-World War II economic expansion flashback on that one. Again, these are not negatively politically fueled comments about our current president, because our entire U.S. political system is antiquated with people who don't know anything about technology and are out of touch with the times that we are living in. They always wait until something goes wrong before recognizing it and then working on it. This is not a positive approach to the future, especially in a fast-growing technological revolution. I believe the truth is, our current U.S. economy is like a house with a foundation built upon sand, and it's anything but solid. Many of these newly created jobs are lower-paying jobs in industries that technology and automation will replace. What we need in the U.S. is a real jobs training program to start replacing the 85,000 H-1B jobs that were created this year and hundreds of thousands of H-1B workers right now in the U.S. In my opinion, the U.S. public education system, as well as the expensive debt-producing college system in the U.S., is antiquated and are currently not prepared for the technological revolution that we face. But that's a discussion for another article. Let's get back to H-1Bs. 20,000 of these H-1Bs were for advanced degree exemption. The H-1B visa master's degree exemption is used to accommodate foreign nationals who hold advanced degrees. The first question is, that directly relates to the U.S. economy. When the U.S. economy has arguably the best universities in the world, why are 20,000 jobs being filled by foreign nationals because they have an advanced degree each year? I'm not saying we don't need this surge of overseas talent, because we desperately do. But the real question is, why aren't more U.S. citizens getting the right education and training and taking more of these high-paying jobs? I will also add something I've been talking about for years. There's a healthy and growing neo-Luddite movement today in the U.S., and companies that become the first to fully automate and have layoffs will become their targets. This means that brands that depend upon mass customers and customer loyalty will need to be very careful about how they implement automation and lay off employees. Having talked to and looked at what many neo-Luddites say and post, I can tell you with confidence that most of them don't understand technology, the technology revolution, and have no ambition of training themselves or their children for the future of our world. They also mass consume social media and technology, but don't care about how it's created or how it works. I also think we need a more caring and understanding approach to this situation, instead of all the gloom and doom, the robots are coming for your jobs marketing. There is a lot of technology paranoia and fear in the U.S., and it's growing. A lot of it is based upon ignorance and fear-based propaganda. I'm pointing out that there's a real issue with technology replacing a lot of jobs, because it will, but we need to start having thoughtful, rational, and intelligent discussions about this. A mass public fearful of technology and always having to be worried about losing their job or career does not promote stability, and it's not good for anyone, companies, people, and the U.S. economy as a whole. This is why, again, companies need to have an excellent long-term automation and technology plan in place right now. You don't want to be the first, and certainly not the last, to do it, as well as people need to start educating themselves for the future. And as I've stated before, this includes white-collar employees like managers and executives. Here's something interesting. While supply chain technology keeps moving along, their supply chains are slowing down, and this could also negatively affect the U.S. economy. According to MarketWatch, the U.S. economy can't keep on trucking without more drivers to ease the flatbed shortage. From this article, the Federal Reserve's period survey of economic conditions across the country has also pointed to a scarcity of truck drivers. In the Mid-Atlantic region, stretching from Maryland to South Carolina, for example, the Fed said driver shortages have led some trucking companies to turn away business. An industry trade group says the U.S. needs at least 30,000 additional drivers to handle all the goods being transported, a number that is expected to increase as older truckers retire. More than half of the nation's estimated 3.5 million truckers are 45 and older, and almost all of them are men. The real issue here, as I see it, is that we have an entire industry that within the next 10 years will become automated with driverless trucks. To get young people excited and interested in an industry that technology will replace is going to be extremely difficult. So I don't see this situation changing anytime soon. An article from Forbes says the U.S. economy could grow by $2 billion per month if federal government shared spectrum. Let me repeat that. The U.S. economy could grow by $2 billion per month if the federal government shared spectrum. According to the article, the U.S. is lagging behind China and South Korea in developing 5G networks. The rollout of a 5G network could add 3 million new jobs and contribute $1.2 trillion, that's with a trillion with a T, to the U.S. economy. Also from the article, sadly, the U.S. is behind on spectrum policy, which historically has been conducted to satisfy the 60 or so federal agencies that possess 2/3 of our nation's prime spectrum resources free of charge. The private sector, which actually pays for the right to use the airwaves, is left with a paltry 16% of the spectrum best suited for mobile broadband. The rest is left largely unused in the hands of government agencies. From broadbandinvestment.com, broadband provider network capital expenditures in 2016 were $76 billion. According to U.S. Telecom's annual Broadband Investment Research Report, With investments totaling around $1.6 trillion since 1996, the broadband industry is a core component in capital investment spending, contributing to the overall health of the U.S. economy. In my opinion, the Internet of Things is going to need 5G and a lot of it, and we cannot afford to be behind both China and South Korea. The U.S. policy needs to be looked at and updated to support U.S. broadband suppliers so they can use it and add millions of jobs and contribute trillions of dollars to the U.S. economy. I have a link to a PDF called Modernizing U.S. Spectrum Policy if you're interested in taking a look at that. I hope you enjoyed my article. I hope you enjoyed the podcast if you're listening to it. If this information is something you're interested in, please click on the subscribe button on YouTube, or if you're reading this, please subscribe to Mr. Futurist, and I'll send you an email every week when I produce a new podcast and article so you can check it out. Thanks for joining me. I really appreciate it.
We appreciate your support for Mr. Futurist and hope you enjoyed our show. Be sure to tune in for our next Mr. Futurist podcast, coming soon.